Hello, my dear friend. Today, I want to share with you a story that has shaped who I am. My name is Arav. I'm 28 years old, and I work as a software developer in Bengaluru. Life looks fine on the outside: steady job, good friends, and a family that supports me. But beneath this facade lies a part of me that hasn't healed, a wound that I carry in my heart every single day. This is not just a story, it's my truth. It's about a love so pure and deep that it consumed me, and the pain of losing it. I'll begin at the start, where all stories do, when I met her. Her name was Ria. I was 24 back then, freshly graduated and eager to prove myself in the bustling tech industry. Bengaluru was a new city for me, a maze of opportunity and chaos. I had joined my first job, learning the ropes of corporate life and trying to make sense of adulthood. One afternoon, during a team meeting, I saw her for the first time. She was standing near the projector screen, presenting a slide on a project update. Her voice was calm yet commanding, her words precise. She had an air of confidence that drew everyone in. Ria was 26, a senior analyst, and someone who seemed to have it all together. She had sharp features, curly black hair that framed her face perfectly, and eyes that sparkled when she smiled. I was mesmerized. For the rest of the meeting, I barely focused on the discussion. My mind was a swirl of thoughts about her. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself drawn to her presence. At first, it was just small talk in the cafeteria or casual greetings in the hallway. But then, one day, I mustered the courage to ask her if she'd like to join me for coffee after work. To my surprise, she said yes. That evening was the first of many. We talked about everything: our jobs, our families, our dreams. Ria was from Pune, the youngest of 3 siblings. She had moved to Bengaluru for work and loved the independence the city offered. She told me about her love for books, especially poetry, and how she found solace in words when the world felt overwhelming. I told her about my love for music, how I would spend hours strumming my guitar to clear my mind. We were different in so many ways, yet we connected on a level that felt profound. As the months passed, our bond grew deeper. We started spending more time together, exploring the city, discovering quaint cafes, and even traveling to nearby hill stations. I was falling for her, and it wasn't long before I confessed my feelings. I remember the night vividly. We were sitting on a rooftop, the city lights twinkling below us. My heart was pounding as I told her how much she meant to me. For a moment she was silent, and I feared the worst. But then she smiled, a smile that lit up her entire face, and told me she felt the same. For a while, everything was perfect. We were inseparable, 2 halves of the same soul. Ria had a way of making me feel alive, of seeing the best in me even when I doubted myself. She was my anchor, my safe space. But life, as I would soon learn, has a cruel way of testing love. Ria had always been open about her past, including a relationship she had ended a year before we met. She told me it was a painful chapter but assured me she had moved on. I believed her because I wanted to, but the truth was more complicated. One evening, as we sat in her apartment watching a movie, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her expression changed. I didn't think much of it until I noticed she had grown distant over the next few days. When I finally confronted her, she admitted that her ex, Varun, had reached out. He wanted to talk, to meet. My heart sank, but I tried to hide my insecurities. I told her it was her decision, that I trusted her, and I did. At least I wanted to. Ria assured me that meeting Varun was just closure, a way to end things once and for all. But the days that followed were agonizing. She seemed torn, as if caught between two worlds. I tried to be understanding, but the fear of losing her consumed me. One night, after days of tension, she finally told me the truth. She still had feelings for Varun. She didn't know what to do or how to choose between her past and her present. Her words felt like a dagger to my chest. I wanted to scream, to beg her to stay, but all I could do was nod and say I understood. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. Ria and I tried to make it work, but the cracks in our relationship grew wider. I could see the pain in her eyes, the guilt she carried for hurting me. But love isn't always enough, and sometimes letting go is the only way to hold on to yourself. One evening, as we sat in a park where we had shared countless happy moments, Ria told me she had made her decision. She was going back to Varun. I didn't say a word. I just sat there, staring at the ground, as tears streamed down my face. She reached out to touch my hand, but I pulled away. The pain was too raw, too unbearable. She moved to a different city. I tried to focus on work, to distract myself, but her absence was a void I couldn't fill. Every place we had been together, every song we had listened to, every memory we had made, it all haunted me. Nights were the hardest, lying awake and wondering where I went wrong, why I wasn't enough. It's been 4 years now, and while the pain has dulled, it has never truly gone away. I've tried to move on, to let other people into my life, but a part of me is still with Ria. The days after Ria left were a blur of emotions, grief, anger, and a hollow emptiness that consumed me. I stopped going out, avoiding the places we had visited together. My friends noticed the change in me and tried to help, but no words could soothe the ache in my heart. Work became my escape. I threw myself into my projects, staying late at the office and taking on every task I could. It wasn't about ambition. It was about distraction. But no matter how hard I tried to suppress my feelings, Ria's memories would creep back in during the quiet moments. One day, as I was sorting through some old files on my laptop, I came across a folder labeled Us. It was full of pictures and videos we had taken together, smiling selfies, candid moments, and snapshots of our adventures. I stared at the screen, my heart heavy, before finally closing the folder. I wasn't ready to delete it, but I couldn't bear to look at it either. Months turned into a year. Life began to settle into a routine, though the pain of losing Ria lingered like a dull ache. I started going out with friends again, trying to reclaim parts of myself that I had lost. One evening, my college friend Neha invited me to a small gathering at her apartment. "You need to meet new people, Arav," she insisted. I hesitated, but eventually agreed. At the party, I met a woman named Kavya. She was warm, friendly, and had a laugh that could light up a room. We talked for hours that night, sharing stories about work, life, and everything in between. For the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of hope. Kavya and I started seeing each other casually. She was understanding and patient, never pushing me to talk about my past, but always offering a listening ear when I needed it. Being with her was different, lighter, easier, but a part of me still felt tethered to Ria. I remember one night, as we walked along a quiet street, Kavya turned to me and said, "Arav, I really like you, but I feel like there's a part of you that's not here with me. You don't have to tell me everything, but I need to know if you're ready to let go of whatever's holding you back." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized that I had been holding on to Ria, not just the memories, but the pain, the what-ifs, and the unresolved feelings. It wasn't fair to Kavya, and it wasn't fair to me. That night, I decided to confront my past. I opened the Us folder on my laptop and went through each picture, each video, allowing myself to feel everything. The love, the heartbreak, the loss. It was painful, but it was also cathartic. I wrote Ria a letter I would never send, pouring out everything I had kept bottled up inside. I told her how much I had loved her, how much she had hurt me, and how I hoped she had found the happiness she was searching for. When I finished, I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. It wasn't about closure with her, it was about closure with myself. Over time, things with Kavya grew deeper. She became my confidant, my partner, and someone I could imagine a future with. She wasn't Ria, but she didn't have to be. She was herself, kind, compassionate, and full of life. One evening, as we sat on a bench overlooking a lake, I told her about Ria. I told her everything, how we met, how we loved, and how we lost each other. Kavya listened without judgment, holding my hand as I spoke. When I finished, she looked at me and said, "Arav, I'm glad you told me. But remember, you're not defined by your past. You're allowed to love again, to be happy again. And I'll be here for you, no matter what." Life moved forward, as it always does. Kavya and I grew closer, and with her, I began to heal. The pain of losing Ria never completely disappeared, but it became a part of me, a scar that reminded me of how deeply I had loved and how much I had grown. As time passed, life became more stable, though I knew the scars from my past would always be a part of me. Kavya and I had built something beautiful together, something I never thought I'd have again. Yet every now and then, a flicker of memory would bring Ria back to my mind. It wasn't longing anymore. It was a quiet reflection, like looking at an old photograph and feeling a distant connection. I often wondered if I would ever see her again. Life is unpredictable after all, and sometimes the people we think are gone forever find a way back. One evening, Kavya and I were shopping at a busy mall. We had been debating what color curtains would look best in our living room when I felt someone tap my shoulder. Turning around, I froze. It was Ria. She looked almost the same, but more mature, as if the years had added a quiet wisdom to her face. Her hair was shorter, and she wore a simple dress that accentuated her natural elegance. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Arav, she finally said, her voice soft but steady. I can't believe it's you. Kavya, this is Ria, I said, my voice shaky. Ria, this is Kavya, my girlfriend. The three of us exchanged polite greetings, though the air was thick with unspoken words. Kavya, sensing the tension, smiled warmly and said, I'll let you two catch up. Arav, I'll be at the cafe downstairs. I wanted to stop her, but she gave me a reassuring nod and walked away. Ria and I sat on a nearby bench, the noise of the mall fading into the background. For a moment, we simply looked at each other, unsure where to begin. I've thought about this moment so many times, Ria admitted. I always wondered what I would say if I ever saw you again. I never expected this, I replied. You look... Well, how have you been? She smiled faintly. I've been okay. I moved abroad shortly after we parted ways. It wasn't easy, but I think it was the right decision at the time. Her words were careful, as if she were walking on thin ice. And you? She asked. I'm doing well, I said. Work is good. Life is good. And Kavya, she's been incredible. She's helped me heal in ways I didn't think were possible. Ria looked down, her expression unreadable. I'm glad, Arav. You deserve that. You always did. We talked for a while, catching up on the years we had missed. Ria told me about her job, her travels, and the new perspective she had gained on life. She had grown in ways I hadn't expected, and I realized that the Ria sitting in front of me wasn't the same person I had fallen in love with all those years ago. At one point, she looked at me and said, Arav, I want you to know that I'm sorry. For everything. For how I left. For the pain I caused. I was confused, and I didn't handle things the way I should have. Her apology caught me off guard, and for a moment, I didn't know how to respond. But then I realized that I had already forgiven her, even if I hadn't admitted it to myself. I appreciate that, Ria, I said. But the past is the past. We both made mistakes, and we both had to grow in our own ways. I'm happy with where I am now, and I hope you are too. She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I am, Arav, and I'm happy for you too. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't realized I needed. Seeing Ria again reminded me of how far I had come, not just in moving on, but in understanding myself and what I wanted from life. When I rejoined Kavya at the cafe, she greeted me with her usual warm smile. How did it go? She asked gently. It went well, I said, taking her hand in mine. Thank you for understanding. I trust you, Arav, she replied, and I know how much you've been through. I'm just glad you found peace. Looking into her eyes, I realized how lucky I was. Life had given me a second chance, not just at love, but at happiness, and I wasn't going to take it for granted. Over the years, I carried the lessons of my past with me. Ria would always be a part of my story, but she was no longer the main character. That role belonged to Kavya, the woman who had taught me that love could be gentle, healing, and enduring. This is my story, a tale of heartbreak, growth, and the painful beauty of letting go. And as I look at Kavya, I know that sometimes the love we find after the storm is the love that was meant to be all along.